So you're not happy with the pace that Canon's releasing RF lenses? Well, Canon heard you. The R50 is going to be announced alongside with a new prime. Details coming up, but first, I encourage you to subscribe and choose all notifications so you're kept informed on the latest camera gear, news, and rumors. Canon Rumors says that we're getting a new RFS 22mm f2 STM pancake lens alongside the R50 in the first quarter of 2022. Most likely late January to early February, around the same time as CP Plus this year. So how good is the info? Well, it's rated as a CR2, which means that the information is coming from known sources that have been correct in the past, so there's a strong possibility that the information has some truth to it, or misrepresented. Nice, another lens that's due out in 2023, one that wasn't on this roadmap when I published it just a couple of days ago. And as I said then, we don't always know everything that Canon's working on. Canon doesn't give us a call, book meetings with us, and tell us, hey guys, guess what? These are things we're working on, so please go ahead and feel free to leak the information out. They certainly don't do that. But we're getting a new prime lens, a pancake lens, 22mm f2 STM, an affordable lens. The current price of the EFM version is $249. Whoa, wait a minute. No, it's on sale, $70 off, $179. So if you have an M50, M6, M6 Mark II, any of the EFM camera bodies, and you're interested in getting this lens, well, you can pick it up for $70 off, and use my links down below if you want to purchase it at B&H. Interesting. So what does this mean for the EFM mount? What does it mean for anybody who's looking at purchasing an M50, an M6, an M6 Mark II, any of these cameras? Well, you see, this is where I get a sense that this is Canon's exit strategy from the EFM mount. We're not going to announce that we're getting away from the EFM mount, but yeah, let's release some more affordable APS-C bodies for the R system, like the R100 or the R50 in this case, which is supposed to be announced in the first quarter, right around CP Plus. CP Plus this year is right around February the 3rd. And usually what happens, nobody announces at the show. They always announce about a week prior to that. We saw that last year with OM Systems, with the OM system and the OM1, and then Panasonic with the GH6, announced on the heels about a week before CP Plus. Canon isn't going to say, by the way, we're done with the EFM mount, that's it, no more. No, they just stop producing units. They'll all of a sudden stop listing it on their website for sale. And now we're starting to see popular lenses, popular primes for the EFM mount, now appearing on the RFS mount, 22mm prime. I can even put that on my R5 because an RFS lens will also work on full frame R system bodies as well. I think this is a positive day. I think this is good news, but in a way it's a bit of, well, it's sad news as well, because this is just another nail in the coffin for the EFM mount. And if you are looking at purchasing that lens that I just flashed up, for the EFM mount, $179, 22mm pancake prime, or maybe even an M6 Mark II or other EFM body, just keep in mind that we're probably closer to the end of life on this than anything else. If you buy a camera and a lens and that's pretty well it for many, many years, well, then there's really nothing to worry about. By the time you get tired of that camera, there'll be plenty to look at from Canon or Sony, Nikon, because with the EFM mount, if you decide that you no longer want that camera, you want to upgrade, you can't migrate any of the lenses or the bodies. Well, obviously you can't migrate the bodies, but you can't migrate the lenses. The only saving grace is if you get the EF to EFM mount adapter, which isn't the cheapest. I think it's what, $150 to $250 in that price range. Well, then you can adapt EF lenses, and eventually when you move over to the R system, you can take those same EF lenses for just $100 using the EF to RF adapter, and you can migrate those. Try that again. You can migrate those over, but you certainly can't migrate EFM lenses. They'll only work on the M50, the M6 Mark II EFM bodies. So let's take a look at some of the capabilities, the embodiments of this new lens, the 22mm RFS f2 STM lens. Obviously, it's fast at f2 with a wide aperture, so that means it's going to be really good with low light performance. It has one aspheric lens element and a 7-blade circular aperture. And as STM would imply, it has a stepping motor, and hopefully this one is really quiet. I used to think that STM was synonymous with silent stepping motors. It was always quiet, but When I purchased the, what was it, the 50mm f1.8, yeah, it was like a bunch of crickets chirping. It was anything but silent. But the lens that attracted me to the STM, or to that STM moniker, was the 18 to 135mm. Absolutely silent. It was my go-to lens for many, many years. The 18 to 135 USM, just a terrific lens for the old EFS system, the Canon 70D, 80D, and 90D. Back to the lens embodiments, it has a smooth and continuous autofocus, no surprises there. But what is interesting is it's almost like, well, it almost functions like a macro with a minimum focusing distance of just 5.9 inches. And in centimeters, that's times 2.2, 5.96 times 2 is 12, 13.2 centimeters. So not too bad there. Yeah, that's actually pretty good. I think with the 100mm, the try that again, the RF 100mm f2.8L, I think it's got a minimum focusing distance of around 10 centimeters. So yeah, that's pretty impressive. All around, I think it's going to be a pretty good lens. But the question again is price. I think most likely it's going to be somewhere between $199 up to $299. And if you're just holding on to that $199, that's the most optimistic. Keep in mind that the EFM version of this lens right now goes on sale, or is the regular price is $249 and is on sale for $199. I can't see Canon really coming less than that. I think $250 to $299, with $299 being the best price. The question is, will this be announced as a kit package along with the R50 when it's announced, most likely on the heels of CP+? No, I don't really think so. Let's take a look again at the R50. Where is it priced at? What's it going to be capable of? Well, we currently have the Canon EOS R10 at $979 with just the body alone. And then I think for another $100 or so, $200, you've got a kit package, but you're dealing with either the 15 to 150, or no, sorry, the 18 to 150 or the 15 to 45. The R50 is going to be priced most likely several hundred dollars less than that, probably replacing either the SL3 or one of the Rebel series like the T7i or the T8i. And if that's the case, it's probably only going to be about $100 or so less than the price of the Canon EOS R10. But the type of kit lens we normally get is something I would expect, and I hate this lens. Just me personally, I just don't find it to be very useful. And that would be something like the 18 to 45 or the 18 to 55. That's usually what happens. But usually what I would recommend is buying the body alone and then spending some time and getting yourself a lens that you think is going to work very well for you. I would even consider getting a 50mm prime. Well, it's nice to have a zoom lens. Like my go-to zoom lens is the 24 to 105 f4. I love it because it simulates 24mm, 35mm, and 50mm. 3 primes that I absolutely love, but I hate constantly switching out lenses, especially as I shoot an awful lot outside. There's a lot of dust, and I don't want to get that into the camera. So I find that the 24 to 105 is a good compromise. But when I want to shoot with a prime lens, the lens that's always on my camera is a 50mm f1.2. And while that's overly expensive for the R50, I would consider seriously getting the 50mm, the RF version. But I think that lens would be a great starter lens, especially if you're new to a camera, because it teaches you framing instead of using that zoom to properly frame, which is not the right way of doing things because you're changing that depth of field. And one thing that's nice about a prime, like a 50mm, is that depth of field is always going to be consistent with that 50mm. So if you're not framed correctly, you learn to move towards your subject or away from the subject. And it creates, I think it teaches a whole lot more about photography than starting off with a zoom lens. But that's just me. I'm the ordinary filmmaker, not so much the ordinary photographer, but the 2 go-to lenses I use almost all the time. Like I said, if I'm out in the sun, it's a bright sunny day, I'm going to take that 24 to 105 with me. Or if I'm going to travel, that lens is always going to be in my kit. However, if I'm going to be shooting in low light situations, I'm going to be going out to the forest or any place where there isn't an awful lot of light, whether it's summertime or wintertime, and especially here way up north, above 44 degrees where the sun isn't the most direct even in the sun, well, that's when I pack the 50mm f1.2. It really pulls the light. You don't see a lot of noise. It's a terrific lens. So those 2 focal lengths, the 24 to 105 and the 50mm on a full frame, is terrific. Now, of course, when you go to an APS-C camera, a Canon APS-C camera, that 50mm times 1.6, more or less, well, it's equivalent to 85mm. But still, even when I had the 70D, the 50mm was one of my top lenses that I would use. Just a terrific focal length. And if you want to stay up to date on all the latest camera news and rumors, we're just about 2 months away from CP+. And of course, that's an exciting time. That's when we start to see a whole bunch of camera announcements. But there's a chance, too, that in the weeks before that, we'll get many other camera announcements. We're expecting many announcements from Nikon, from Canon, from Sony, from Panasonic. We're coming up to the 4-year mark to see a refresh of the S series. So that's exciting. There's so many cameras we're expecting from Canon. And of course, Nikon. I just published a video earlier this morning. The Nikon Z8, Z6 Mark III, Z7 Mark III, Z5 Mark II. We're expecting a lot from Nikon. And Sony, well, there's a lot we're expecting there too. Just so much coming. So if you want to stay up to date on all the latest camera news and rumors, please go ahead and click that subscribe button, followed by choosing all notifications. By choosing all notifications, as soon as I publish a new video, you'll get notified by YouTube, so that way you can stay up to date on all the latest camera news and rumors. That saves you from all the time you'd have to spend scrubbing all the latest Twitter feeds, RSS feeds, your favorite websites, YouTube channels, and even reading your favorite print magazines. Because I cover all the major camera news and rumors from all the major brands and all the major models. And I also do reviews as well. But that's it for now. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you again soon.